Okay, so here's the project. Inside this tote, there is a bell tent that was left at Midwest Preparedness Festival last spring because it was waterlogged and the person couldn't take it home. So it went over to somebody else's house for 2 or 3 weeks, and then it was brought to us because Angela said she would sell it for him. Well, we haven't been able to find a buyer for it, so I'm going to break it out. I'm going to set it up. I'm going to check it, make sure it's okay, and then I'm going to waterproof it so when the person that owns it comes back to the Fall Midwest Preparedness Festival, they've got a usable tent that's waterproof. All right, stick around. Let's do this. Hey everybody, welcome back to Grumpy Acres. Well, like I said, inside this tote is a canvas bell tent that needs to be, first I need to check it to make sure it's not moldy and stuff, because it's been sitting in this. I don't know if it was dried out or not after the last Midwest Preparedness Festival or not. So I've got to take care of that part first. First I got to make sure it's fully functional and not mildewy and dirty and stuff. Then I've got to waterproof it because the person that owns it is going to be back at Midwest Preparedness Festival, and I would really like to get this back in their hands so that they've got a functional tent and they can take it home with them. All right, so that's what we're going to do today. Before we do that though, I want you guys to, if you're not a subscriber, to think about hitting that subscribe button, become part of our family here. All right, on to the project. I guess the first thing to do is to open this thing up and see what it's like on the inside. All right, that's what we got. On first glance, the bottom cover's got some mud on it, but everything looks like it's in good order. None of the canvas I can see looks moldy yet. Oh, there's some mold right there. That does not look good. All right, so I have never set one of these up before, so this is going to be an adventure in itself. But like I said, there's a little bit of mold right there. I'm going to have to treat that with some bleach. You know, I'm out here doing this in the shade right now because in about an hour the sun's going to be up over these trees and it's going to be nice and sunny here. And if I've got to treat that with bleach or anything, I'll be able to take a spray bottle and spray it down, maybe rub it in a little bit and just let it set for 2 or 3 hours, and that should take care of any mold and mildew that's on it. And as you can see, there's a little bit of stains right here. I'm going to have to treat this too. And this thing's still a little damp. Good Lord, this thing is huge. No wonder it weighed so much in that stupid crate. Let's check it out. Okay, the good news is, on first inspection, there's some grass stains. But on first inspection, it does not look like there's any mold or mildew on it. That's a good sign. It was just on that case right there and on that. I'm not sure. I think that's an awning. But the rest of this thing looks like it's in really good shape. All right, so let's get it set up and start treating it. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do is get these poles put together, and then I can stake the bottom out and start setting it up. But these poles are they're spring loaded, so they all fit together. There's no figuring out what goes where as far as putting them together. And just slide together like that. So it looks like there's 3 sets of these A-frame poles. Those go on the inside. I'm not going to put the other 2 together because it's going to be too hard to get these in and out of the tent once it's set up. So I'm going to set these off to the side and then we'll start putting the tent up. So here's all the tent pins. Let me show you something though. This right here, this is called a trucker's friend. And if you don't own one, you should get one and stick it in your car, stick it in your camping gear. This is probably one of the most versatile tools that I've got in my toolkit. It's got a hammer with a nail puller, it's got a chisel, it's got a cutting blade, it's got a key to turn wing nuts, big wing nuts and stuff. This is probably one of the most versatile things I've got, and I love this thing. I'll put a link down below if you guys want to check it out. And it's made in the USA right there. It says right there, made in the USA. So let's get to putting these pins in. All right, so I got all the pins in, and I put the front over there facing the road for some reason. We're gonna have to move the camera. Let's take a walk around the tent while we're doing that. So as you can see, looks like everything, there's some pollen in the corners. There was a lot of pollen in the air at the last festival. So that's not mold, it just rubs off with your fingertips. Doesn't look like anything's ripped or anything. The tent, I've never seen one like this because it's a bell tent, but it's got two main poles and it's oblong shaped. It's like oval shaped instead of round. So that's something different. Not that I'm an expert on them or anything. So let's get the main poles put in. Look at the size of this thing. This thing is monstrous. Next thing I need to do is get the internal structure put in. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and finish putting guidelines in. I'm going to turn the camera off while I'm doing this. It's going to take some time, but I'll be right back. All right, I got this thing set up. Took me about an hour to do by myself while I was filming. So if you had 2 or 3 people doing it, I'm thinking maybe 20-30 minutes. It was really kind of simple and kind of intuitive. I mean, it was very user-friendly. This next portion is going to sound like a commercial, and it's not meant to be. As I was setting it up, I noticed some things about this tent that I wanted to point out. If you're thinking about getting one, or you've got one and you're having some problems with it, there's certain things in here that you can do to help make it better. First off, let me just say, the guidelines, they are not all in the proper position. If I was using this to camp in, I would take them out and put them exactly, position them exactly where they need to be. Some of them are off center, so they're not pulled as tight as they should be, but I'm not going to be camping in it, so there it is. So here's some things about this tent that are, I think, interesting. Number one, it's got a pan, and this pan is vinyl. The pan is the part that goes on the ground, okay? And it zips in. You can see the zipper goes all the way around. This is good. I would still put a ground cloth underneath this thing, because one of the things I found out camping and hiking is the more layers you have between you and the ground, the better. All right? And then something else with the pan. If we come outside, it's got these little elastic things, these need to go down around the pins holding the pan down, because what that does is it takes this flap and covers that up, and that zipper is going to be where rain gets in. So we need to make sure that's covered up and go all the way around. One feature I do like on this thing is these. I never can remember what these are called, but you use them to tighten. They're just a friction tightener, and use them to tighten your ropes up. These things are awesome. I love them. One thing I would do if this was my tent, well, the first thing I do, there's a couple things. Comes with a bunch of pins like this, which are kind of beefy, but they're not the best pins. I would go to some place like Harbor Freight or Northern Tool or someplace like that, and just buy a couple of packages of the great big pins with the plastic tops like that. They just, from my experience, they just stay in the ground so much better. Let's do a walk around the tent. So it's got windows. It's got windows that come up. Pardon the shadows. I told you the sun was going to come out. Now it's got two mantles for a stove. So there's one, and there's the second one. So you got two different options for venting a stove. Now this one they used, and you can see it's ripped, and that's just a silicone. Now if it were me, what I would do with this is I would replace this with a proper metal mantle or something like that, something a lot more durable than that. And these are replaceable. You can see it's just velcroed on there, so you can buy replacements for them. The ropes are in good shape. It's a little dirty. It's got two entrances. It's got an entrance. This is the one facing the road that I told you about. I opened up the other side entrance. What else we got going? Oh, so where these poles come through, there's these little metal these silicone caps here. You need to make sure those are on and nice and tight, because if not, water's going to get in there too. All right, let's go inside. Now, like I said, it's got these metal poles. It's got 3 sets of these A-frames, and I figured out the one on the side here that we're facing is larger than the ones on the end. So what I'm going to do, just to make it easier for the person that owns this next time they set it up, I'm going to take some blue painter's tape. I'm going to put it around the big one, so you know exactly where it goes, because they won't fit. They're not interchangeable. All right, the big ones won't fit where the small ones are. The inside looks like it's in good shape. I mean, I don't see any tears or anything. Now, when it was raining at the last festival, it was coming down hard. So if they didn't have those elastic ties, I don't know how it was set up, so I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong, okay? But if you didn't have those ties down, it doesn't cover up that pan, or that zipper on the pan, and you can see it sits up pretty high. So, you know, if we do that, that will help take care of some issues. I guess the next thing I need to do is wipe this thing down, or sweep it down and get all the debris off of it, and then I'll set about trying to get it clean. Oh, one thing I forgot. This piece, I told you I wasn't quite sure what that was. Looks like that's a doormat. I would chuck that thing. That thing would go away, and I would get a proper, you know, either a piece of AstroTurf, you know the grass carpet thing, or a tarp, a heavy-duty tarp to put down, because that's just fabric, and that's going to soak through and get wet, and you're going to be tracking stuff in all over the place. All right, I'm going to go take a break, get some water, get the supplies I need, and then I'm going to be back out and start taking care of this. All right, we're back. Took a break, got some lunch, got some water, ready to start weatherproofing this thing, or waterproofing it. We're going to be using the Starbright waterproofing. I've seen this used at the lake. We used to have a little place down by the lake, the Ozarks. I've seen people using this on their awnings, on their RVs, and on their boat covers. So I think it should do the job. This is not duck canvas. This is some sort of rubberized canvas. It's not really, I'm not really quite sure exactly what it is, but there is synthetics in it. But this product should help do it. Now what I've done is I've taken the main supports out and laid them down on the inside, so that I can get all the way to the top on this. And the way you use it is you just either put it on with a brush or a sponge, and you saturate it until it's thoroughly wet, and then you let it completely dry. So what I'm going to do is I've got it in a, you can also do it in a sprayer. I've got a sprayer, I've got 1 gallon here. It's supposed to do 450 square feet. I think we may be pushing it on this. I'm going to make sure I get the top for sure, and then we'll see how it works. All right, so let me get to this, and I'll be back in just a minute. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's beating up, so there's some water resistance in this. We're just going to make it better. Okay, so I've thoroughly soaked the top on the outside. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the supports back up on the inside and spray the inside as well. So let's do that. These metal pieces in here, the sun's shining really bright today. They are hot. They are painful to the touch. All right, so I got a little bit left. I'm going to go ahead and go around the outside again. It seems to be drying pretty quick in this sun, so we'll do that. I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera off. I don't want to bore you guys with this, but when I'm done, I'll be back and give you some final thoughts, okay? I am done spraying. I did 2 coats on the outside and 1 coat on the inside, and I got 1 coat down along the bottom on the outside. This Starbright waterproofing is water soluble. I had a lot of spray over and it washed off very easily, and the sprayer cleaned up very easily. You know, it's been a pretty easy project. It's hot out here. That's probably, if I'm going to complain about anything. I think if I was going to do this on a tent that I owned, I would want an extra set of hands, and I would lay it down on the ground and put it on by paintbrush. I just think doing it, and I would probably buy 2 gallons of this instead of just 1 gallon, and I would treat it multiple times, because it definitely needed it. I could tell the second coat was not beating up as much, which means that it had soaked in the first coat and was a little bit gummy still, so it needed it. Hopefully it'll work. I'm gonna let this dry. It has to dry completely before you use it or before you put it away. So I'm gonna let it dry, and I think I may spray it down later on tonight and see how the water reacts on it, see if it beads up more. All in all, pretty simple. I'm gonna let the owner know that they need to treat this at least once a year. I'd probably, if I'm using it more than once, I'd probably treat it twice a year, to be honest with you, just to be sure. This has the mantle for the wood stove on it, and we've got the wood stove in the garage. We're going to take that back to her too. You know, that tells me that this is rated for at least a 3-season tent. I'm not sure I would try to use this in 4 seasons. The seams, it's a Vevor, what is it, Vevor brand tent. I think they got it through Walmart.com. But the seams, looking at the seams are probably where it's going to leak the most, or have the best chance of leaking. You know, not that it's a poor quality. I'm just looking at it, and it's kind of thin, and they're single stitched. So I spent extra time spraying down the seam lines and all that on the inside. So all in all, like I said, easy project. If you've ever used one of these tents, or you got any comments about waterproofing, go ahead and put comments down below. Let me know. Let the owner, so I can share with the owner and do all that stuff. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you know when we put more stuff out. I will put links down below in the description for the waterproofing, the trucker's friend, and this tent if I can find it. This isn't meant to be a commercial, but I just want, if anybody's interested in buying them, I'm just going to give you the opportunity. All right. All in all, you know, I don't know how much they paid for it. I'll be honest with you, I don't know how much they paid for it. It doesn't look like it's a bad tent. I don't know what Vevor, I think, is a Chinese company. And if it came through Walmart, it most definitely is a Chinese company. But if I were to buy a bell tent like this, or whatever this kind of tent's called, it's not really a bell tent, it's kind of a hybrid. But I would buy a true duck canvas tent, because they're more durable, it's heavier material, and it soaks up the waterproofing a lot better. Okay, that's about it for the video. You guys, hope to see you out at Midwest Preparedness Festival. Bring your tent so you can compare it to this one. We'll see if this is waterproof. I'm pretty sure it's waterproof. I don't think it'll hold up to monsoon rains, but I think a light rain, it'll be perfectly fine. Most importantly, I want you guys to go out today and live a life tent free. All right, take care. Thanks, Milo.